It has been a series of high interest, and it continues this afternoon here at Great American Ballpark. The Reds and the Cardinals, the finale of their three-game set. St. Louis has won the first two. The two teams are tied in the standings. The Reds, by percentage points, are behind the Cardinals in the NL Central. Thanks for joining us again, Paul Keels and Chris Welsh, and certainly a couple of good pitchers on the mound to focus on today, Chris.
Well, they better focus on the game and not what happened last night, that's for sure, because these guys, when they do focus on the game, they are pretty good pitchers. Bronson Arroyo has been very good for the Reds this year, 12-6. Adam Wainwright may be the leading candidate other than Ubaldo Jimenez for the National League Cy Young Award. Two right-handers, big curveballs, good pitchers. I'll tell you what, hitters are going to have a tough time this afternoon.
They certainly will, and the hitters will be trying to get the Reds their first win of the series. It's the Reds and the Cardinals. First pitch coming up next. By Ford, F-Series trucks, the best-selling trucks 33 straight years. By Just for Men, for mustache and beard, keep your edge. And by Skyline Chili, whenever you're feeling good and hungry, it's Skyline time. Time to check today's weather here at Great American. Here's John Gum.
It'll be a scorcher on the field of Great American Ballpark today as the game starts. We'll go from the low 90s into the mid-90s, eventually into the upper 90s by late in the game. Just a slight chance for a brief passing shower or thunderstorm. Go Reds!
So this is the finale of the series between the Reds and the Cardinals. The batting order for Tony La Russa's team, the same as it was.
Well, why not? Why change things when you've already come into Cincinnati and taken two in a row? Albert Pujols, of course, the kingpin in this lineup. When he goes, the Cardinals go. Matt Holliday knocked in several runs last night and a big hitting night for him. Colby Rasmus, Molina, Schumacher hit a grand slam the other night. Adam Wainwright, again, in the number 8 spot for Tony La Russa. And Brendan Ryan, the shortstop, batting 9th.
Then they'll deal with Reds right-hander Bronson Arroyo. has not yielded an earned run in his last 2 outings. And coming off a winning performance over the weekend in Chicago. Felipe Lopez to lead it off for St. Louis, and he looks to the strike.
Well, when Bronson Arroyo is on his game, boy, he really makes it look easy. He doesn't seem to want to rear back and throw hard. He's gotten away from throwing too many curveballs. He just simply pitches with a lot of feel.
Lopez with a base hit. A double to lead off the game last night. He was originally scored an error, but it was then changed. He eventually came around to score the first of the 8 Cardinal runs. Scott Rowland playing him in tight at third base. Last Friday, Bronson Arroyo at Wrigley Field against Chicago. 7 shutout innings, allowed 5 hits, walked 1, and struck out 7. Another scorcher here at Great American Ballpark. These 2 teams now tied for first in the standings. Technically, the Cardinals with some percentage point advantage in the lead. These 2 teams also at the start of the day find themselves tied with San Francisco for the top spot in the National League wildcard standings. Count 2-2 to Felipe Lopez, who will be followed by right fielder John Jay and then Albert Pujols. Arroyo's 2-2 pitch. Bounce to Phillips. And that'll take care of Lopez for the first out. The Ford defense for Dusty Baker's Reds as they are aligned both infield and outfield.
And pretty much the way the Dusty Baker went last night, you got Drew Stubbs, Jay Bruce, and Johnny Gomes, a right-hander in the lineup tonight. Roland, Giannis, Phillips, and Joey Votto across the infield today. The personal catcher for Bronson Arroyo is Ryan Hannigan, and he is behind the dish.
Jay Bruce last night, the first game all season that he has not played in, whole or part of. John Jay, the right fielder for the Cardinals, is the one-out batter. And he starts off with a strike. 1 for 3 with a sacrifice bunt and a strikeout for John Jay last night. His 1 base hit was a double. Right back at Arroyo. 2 are gone quickly.
Well, Bronson Arroyo is the guy you want to send out there in this rubber match. An important ball game, certainly for the Reds. You don't want to be swept at home, not by the Cardinals, who would leave town a game up. And he has done very well against the Cardinals lately at home. 2-0 record, earned run average of 1.4, 4 earned runs overall. That's only in 3 starts. So he's given the Reds a lot of innings and some quality innings here against this Cardinal team at Great American Ballpark.
He has shown his veteran presence surrounded by a bunch of youngsters in the pitching rotation. Albert Pujols with 2 outs. And this looks like the makings of an easy inning for Bronson Arroyo. Joey Votto has it. Cardinals down in order. No score after a half inning. of the first for the Cincinnati Reds, and here's the Cincinnati Bell batting order.
And Brandon Phillips leads it off. Johnny Gomes in the lineup against a very tough right-hander tonight. You see what he has done against the Cardinals. A .343 batting average. Bruce, Drew Stubbs, Hannigan, and the pitcher Bronson Arroyo. If you're looking for any activity here like last night, you might be disappointed. No tap of the bat on the shin guards of Yadi Molina tonight. In fact, it doesn't look like they're even looking at each other, talking to each other. A big difference than last night in the bottom of the first inning when it all started the melee.
And, Chris, what happened, too, before Brandon Phillips even got to the box, Mark Carlson, the home plate umpire, stepped right up to him and had a few words. We would assume to be preventative.
Well, I think what both teams, now that they've had a chance to sleep on, I can't say that the attitude between these teams has gone away. It won't until the season has ended. But I think they've had a night to sleep on it. Their managers have had a chance to talk to them, and they realize that what they do on the field is a lot more important, I mean, between the lines, than what they do on the field in a melee or a mosh pit. And the Cardinals seem to have really been able to gather up the troops, circle up the wagons, and play a lot more team baseball here over the last couple of nights than the Reds have. The Reds' bats have gone to sleep despite the talking of Brandon Phillips. They've not been able to back it up.
Brandon Phillips last night, 1 base hit and an RBI at 5 at-bats, and bounces this right back to Wainwright. That'll be the first out coming quickly. Here's a look at Adam Wainwright and what he has done in putting together a fantastic season so far.
A fantastic season is maybe an understatement right there for Wainwright. 16-6 overall, an earned run average right around 2. He's got good control, plenty of strikeouts. He can be one of the most dominating pitchers in the league, and he is in a dominant kind of a scheme right now. Really, really on a roll.
Paul Janisch, the one-out batter. Wainwright second in the National League in ERA leaders, second in wins, second in complete games, third in innings pitched, fourth in strikeouts, and third in opponent batting average. So while a lot of the attention has been focused individually regarding pitching on Ubaldo Jimenez of the Rockies, and understandably so, Wainwright is looking pretty strong in 2010.
Well, you know, Tony La Russa knew what he was doing when he changed up his rotation to make sure the Reds saw their top 3. And they have seen the top 3. And if you're a Cardinal fan, the top 3, at least so far, the first 2, have not disappointed.
Paul Janisch with a pop fly behind the plate.
Reds fans are hoping that Bronson Arroyo can be the ace of the staff and the big game pitcher that they hope him to be.
It is much needed. Janisch 0 for 3 with a walk last night. Count 1-2. Felipe Lopez will gobble up that grounder. 2 gone. And a look at the forward defense for Tony La Russa's St. Louis Cardinals. And they are deployed as they were last night. And as they were on Monday night as well.
Exactly right. He'll go with that same lineup. The Cardinals did make a roster move. They've had Jeff Suppan on the disabled list. Now, he did not get injured in last night's fight, although if you look at that tape very closely, you'll see him crawling out from beneath the bottom of the scrum towards center field, almost like he wants to just get me out of here.
Joey Votto bounces right at Skip Schumacher, and the Reds will go in order, as did the Cardinals, after 1 full, no score.
shin guard. Molina says, I don't want you to do that. Don't tell me that. And then Brandon Phillips teases him a little bit and does it again. Meanwhile, now Molina's talking to him saying, hey, we're not what you called us, which were feline canines or female canines. And then they go chest to chest. And that's what erupted the whole thing. Eventually, the bench is emptied. It looked like it was calmed down for a moment. And then everybody came in. Chris Carpenter came in. There you see Scott Rowland, who was a peacemaker at first and then got into everything. And there was a lot of shoving, and fortunately nobody got injured last night. And I think that we're not going to see one of those today by any means, but I think that there's still some emotions and some people on edge. And that is our storyline, brought to you by Elk & Oak. Serious lawyers for serious injuries. Call 1-800-ELK, Ohio.
Very nicely done. No score, top of the second, St. Louis. We'll have Matt Holliday leading it off, and what a night he had at the plate. 4 for 5 with 3 driven in and scored 2 runs himself.
You know, the reason I wanted to take another look at that storyline was because I said last night that Yadi Molina was at fault. And then I looked at it again and heard actually what was being said. Molina said something to Brandon Phillips when he first came to the plate. And then Brandon Phillips tapped him with his bat like it's a greeting, and a lot of players do that. And he said, don't do that to me. And then Brandon kind of teased him and did it again. It's like in the playground, you draw a line and say, don't cross that line. And that's when it went up. So there was a little bit of immaturity. You know, I think Brandon Phillips crossed the line last night. He could have gone up there, let Molina say what he said, tap him one time, and then, okay, forget about it. Let's go to play baseball.
Well, it certainly was something that got attention around the country after the game was over last night with any network you watched, and it is now 1-2 on Holiday. The follow-up now, Chris, is going to be what happens afterwards, and it's fair to guess that something would. Dusty Baker was asked about it, and it's kind of interesting the approach he took. And he didn't want to assume that anything was going to happen and wanted to think positive.
Well, I think Tony La Russa's on the other side of that. He assumes that something is going to happen. He sees that there was a real problem, by the way, that Johnny Cueto was kicking some of the Cardinal players. In fact, Jason LaRue sustained some lacerations on his face. I don't know if he got stitches or not, but they say he has a slight concussion. He's scheduled to get an x-ray when he gets back to St. Louis this afternoon. And Tony La Russa is adamant about some kind of penalty being imposed on some of the Reds. I imagine that they're going to be up to 6 different players involved in getting some penalties. That's just speculation on my part.
Holiday with another base hit as he drops that one into center field. The first knock of the day for either team.
I'll tell you what, this guy is absolutely on fire. We said last night he's turned into somewhat of a singles hitter this year compared to what he's been in the past. But boy, he has really come up with some big hits, and every time you turn around, the guy's on base.
So Matt Holliday at first base with Colby Rasmus, the second hitter of the inning. No score here on the top of the second. And the other factor that comes into play with any suspensions or punishment that comes on, these are 2 teams obviously in a very, very serious division race here, and both could be hampered, and if so, you hope equally.
Well, 2 things can happen right here. It can help you bring your team together, or it can help take your team apart. And whether there are guys on his ball club, the Reds that is, that agree with Brandon Phillips popping off in the paper like he did about the Cardinals, you better have his back. I mean, after all, he's a teammate of yours. Now, you can quietly go to some of your Cardinal friends and say, hey, I'm not on, I don't hate the Cardinals. I just want to win ball games. But you've got to publicly support Brandon Phillips and come together as play as a team. Right now, the Cardinals have come together. This is great bulletin board material when Brandon said it, and they've responded with 2 wins.
Rasmus looks at a strike. You've heard athletes say it sometimes when things aren't going right. You either need a good party or a good fight.
Yeah.
Colby Rasmus last night 1 for 6 with an RBI. 2-1 the count here on the top of the second inning in a scoreless ball game. Arroyo dealing inside to Rasmus. Mentioned that Bronson Arroyo has not allowed an earned run in his last 2 starts. That's outings against the Cubs and the Braves, making his team high 24th start of 2010. 3-1 the count to Rasmus. On deck, Yadier Molina, and Rasmus to right field. Jay Bruce in position, and he has it for the first out of the inning here on the top of the second. What could be better than a Friday night ball game and fireworks? Join the Reds as they take on the Marlins this Friday at Great American, and stick around for the free post-game fireworks spectacular. Thanks to Toyota. Get tickets now by calling 513-381-REDS or log on to reds.com. Now the anticipated greeting for catcher Yadier Molina.
You know, he probably takes that as a compliment.
Absolutely. And not only was he in the initial stages of that scrap, getting face-to-face with Brandon Phillips last night, he delivered at the plate.
He really did. I mean, it was one of those situations, batter versus pitcher. Johnny Cueto all fired up. He reared back and threw some of his best fastballs of all night, topping out at 96 on Molina. Molina finally got one on the inner part of the plate at 95, unjammed the Reds pitcher and took one out of here, and he silenced the crowd with that.
In the second, he hit his 5th home run of the year. He also had a sac fly for an RBI in the 6th. This is the 16th consecutive start for Yadier Molina. We only mention that just because of the burden of the position. Arroyo ahead in the count, 0-1. Holiday on at first. And here is that long ball by Yadier Molina.
Now that fastball, you see where Ramon Hernandez was set up, was down and away, and it kind of drifted back over middle in. Johnny Gomes out of left field, very frustrated that ball left, and as you can see, a very joyous dugout in St. Louis.
It was his 6th career home run against the Reds, the most he has had against any team. 1-1. Now 1-2.
A little different story, obviously. When you're facing Johnny Cueto one night, here you got a right-hander firing fastballs up there, mostly fastballs and hard sliders. In fact, Johnny Cueto throws his cutter and slider almost as hard as Bronson Arroyo throws his fastball. So Arroyo's a little different character to contend with. He'll throw you a lot of little breaking balls that kind of look like garden snakes coming up there to the plate. You've got to be patient and be able to hit the ball the other way, and not all those hitters can do that.
1-2 pitch, and he goes the opposite way, charging Jay Bruce. 2 out. Monday night's hero for the Cardinals, Skip Schumacher, will bat next. Launched his first career grand slam on Monday night here at Great American Ballpark.
Well, Bronson Arroyo is a guy that really mixes his pitches up. I mean, a lot of starters out there, they depend on 1 or 2 pitches, but you can see that Bronson Arroyo depends equally on 4 different pitches. In fact, he throws his fastball the fewest of any of his pitches, according to the breakdown on Arroyo this year. He throws more curveballs and changeups than he does anything else. His sinker is 23%, and his regular fastball, his four-seamer, the one that you see around the letters, is only at 17% of the time. So not an easy guy to guess along with.
He gets ahead in the count. The Schumacher. Holiday at first after a single. The lead off the top of the second. Skip Schumacher 11 for 34 against Bronson Arroyo prior to the start of today's game. Up the middle and by Phillips. Base hit. 2 will be on for the Cardinals. First got by Arroyo, and then Brandon Phillips with a dash toward the bag. Couldn't catch up.
I'll tell you what, the ball really going through the infield very quickly now. Maybe it's the way they've cut the grass here. Maybe it's the fact that this hot weather makes it so difficult to get that grass nice and thick. But the ball is very quick through the infield, much quicker now than it was earlier in the year, which benefits the hitter and not the pitcher, especially when you're a guy that gets some ground balls.
Speaking of the pitcher, Adam Wainwright batting in the 8th spot. He'll be the 2-out batter. 10 hits in 60 at-bats on the season for Wainwright. Tony La Russa, as much if not more than any other manager, utilizing the pitcher in the 8th spot rather than 9. You've seen John Russell do it in Pittsburgh.
And the reason he does that is obviously to get Albert Pujols more hitters on base ahead of him. So you use Brendan Ryan, the shortstop, in the number 9 hole. He'll get on base more than the pitcher will. So you have a better chance of having Albert bat with someone on when you configure the lineup like he does.
So it's not necessarily because you get a pitcher that hits better than most.
Exactly.
1-0 the count, a swing and a miss. And for those who are old-time Reds fans and are into such things, if you ever go out to Blue Ash and see old Crosley Field scoreboard, the last game played at Crosley in 1970 with the Giants, Juan Marichal, the starting pitcher that night, hit 7th.
Now he can hit.
Yes, he could. 2 on, 2 out, and the count is 1-1 to Adam Wainwright. We saw Wainwright last night during that melee at one point. He was one of those who appeared to be trying to play peacemaker. As a matter of fact, Wainwright and Scott Rowland were around Yadier Molina and seemed to have had him cooled down, but then that's when Chris Carpenter became a little more active part, and that's when things escalated.
Well, you know, it escalated really between the coaches first. I think Jose Oquendo reportedly said something to Dusty Baker, and Baker said something back at him, and then La Russa said something to Baker saying, don't talk to my coaches, and Baker said, well, who are you to tell me who to talk to? And then Chris Carpenter began to chirp, and things really went wild. So it all started with talking. Originally the talking by Brandon Phillips, eventually talking by just about everybody down on the field in that melee.
2-2 pitch, now count full. You know, in the midst of all of that, too, don't know if we ever acknowledged the fact, but from Monday night, when Chris Carpenter had dressed down Brendan Ryan, it kind of came out in the St. Louis papers that the two of them had a nice little gathering to bury the hatchet regarding that little dispute. Well, Arroyo with a full count to his opposite number with 2 out and 2 on. And he walks Adam Wainwright to load the bases.
Well, that's a bad walk right there. There's Jason LaRue. Now, he reportedly was kicked by Johnny Cueto in the head and in the face. It's hard to tell from our angle we have right now whether he's had any contusions or cuts on his face, but some of the Cardinal people were telling me that he has shown symptoms of a slight concussion.
And St. Louis purchased the contract of rookie catcher Stephen Hill from their Double-A team in Springfield today.
Yeah, they did that really to cover for Jeff Suppan, who was not going to pitch for them. He's got a hip problem, and he hadn't pitched well for the Cardinals since being picked up after being released by the Brewers. So they picked up an extra catcher in the event that LaRue has had a problem, but he's a guy that can play outfield and catch, and I think that's the reason they wanted to bolster their team that way. They were going with 13 pitchers, and they weren't going to do that for very long.
Bronson Arroyo getting ready for his 27th pitch of this inning after throwing 9 in the first inning. Bases loaded, 2 out, and 0-2 to Brendan Ryan, the 9-batter.
You know, it's really interesting the difference in philosophy that the Cardinals have taken against 2 different pitchers in this series. Mike Leake, the first night, they were out hacking at the first pitch every inning until they finally scored 7 off of them, in the 4th inning. Then Bronson Arroyo today, they're being much more patient at the plate, and that's why it's so important for him to get that first strike in there, because they want him to work up his pitch count.
0-2 pitch. Still 0-2. Brendan Ryan, who had been struggling last night, 1 for 4 and scored a run. Had a single in the 7th inning, part of a 3-run 7th. The Cardinals scored 3 in the 6th and 3 in the 7th to kind of break it open after the Reds had managed to get within 1 at a 5-4. Holiday at third, Schumacher at second, and Wainwright at first. Strike 3. Down goes Ryan. The Cardinals leave the bases loaded. After an inning and a half, the Reds and the Cardinals are scoreless. signs in left or center field during today's game. James Redmond of Cincinnati will win this beautiful new Tundra on display here at Great American Ballpark. Register for your chance to win at an upcoming game by visiting your Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky Toyota dealers. And James Redmond would look good riding around in that truck if somebody's able to connect in it. Scott Rowland will come lead off the inning. We'll get a glimpse at Scott Rowland first, trying to play peacemaker, and then very actively involved in the fracas.
Well, you know, it starts out as peacemaker, and then all of a sudden when you start getting pushed and jabbed from behind, it looks like you become an aggressor. But right there, cooler heads beginning to prevail, and there they are today. Chris Carpenter and Scott Rowland talking well before the gates were open. Carpenter showing him the scars, or at least the contusions on his back that he sustained from the spiked feet of Johnny Cueto.
Scott Rowland last night 0 for 3, couple of strikeouts and a walk.
It's not comical, and it's even less comical if the Reds can't win today.
Rowland puts this one into left center field. Backing up, and a grab made by Holiday just shy of the wall. And agree with you, it's not comical, especially if there's the fear of anybody getting hurt. But
well, Holiday didn't make it look pretty out there. No style points for him today, but I'll tell you what, he makes the catch. Here's what's happening here with this hot weather. As we have seen in Great American Ballpark before, the ball flies anyway, but when it heats up, it really goes. That ball was on the end of the bat and nearly went out of here.
There's Matt Holiday. We saw an outstanding play by Colby Rasmus in center field last night as well, and a ball hit by Ramon Hernandez. Johnny Gomes. 0 for 3 and a strikeout victim twice last night. Adam Wainwright dealing to the Reds left fielder. And it's 0-2.
Well, Wainwright's got the kind of stuff that he can throw that fastball, that little two-seamer inside to Johnny Gomes, and Gomes just can't get the bat head on it. They don't drop that big curveball on him.
Gomes pokes this one long, but foul.
Gomes had to be thinking he was going to see that hook, and that's what it was, but got it on the inner part of the plate a little bit. There's a grip. You see that he kind of really puts a lot of pressure on his middle finger, and he hung one on the inner part of the plate right there. Hung it so far inside you couldn't keep it fair.
Wainwright's 0-2 pitch.
Much better one right there. You know, the thing that has gotten Wainwright since the All-Star break really going was that when he was at the All-Star game, he had a little talk with Tim Lincecum of the San Francisco Giants, and Lincecum showed him his grip on a changeup. And ever since that time, Wainwright has been working on it. He finally got it down, and it's really improved his arsenal of stuff.
A pretty good guy to learn it from.
It certainly is. Now, the difference, of course, between Wainwright and Tim Lincecum is the size of their hands. Wainwright is 6'8", Lincecum's a much smaller guy, and Wainwright's got big hands, and he's got to be able to adjust that grip to fit him.
1-2 pitch from Wainwright, and Johnny Gomes held off.
Of course, that changeup by Lincecum is rated as one of the best in all of Major League Baseball. So you add it all together, and you know, if you add a Lincecum-type changeup to the rest of Adam Wainwright's arsenal, you're talking about a guy that year in and year out will be, you know, top 5 Cy Young.
Yeah, that'd be a dangerous combination. 2-2 to Johnny Gomes. Now full.
Good at bat right here. Despite what happens, he's worked him. He got down 0-2, and he's fouled off some tough pitches.
No score here in the bottom of the second, and with one out, payoff pitch to Johnny Gomes. Brendan Ryan will gobble it up. And 2 are gone. Right now you can chat with Hall of Fame baseball writer Hal McCoy. Plus get the latest from Bengals camp on FoxSportsOhio.com. Presented by 1-800-SAFE-AUTO and SafeAuto.com.
He's up there in that press box somewhere, pecking away with those 2 fingers.
Yes, he is. Hal McCoy. Every time you're around Hal, you just feel like you learn a little more about baseball. Even if you don't, you feel like you have. Jay Bruce up the middle. Base hit. First of the day for the Reds.
Well, Jay Bruce is coming on a little bit. Boy, he was mired in some kind of a power outage slump and a slump overall throughout the month of July, where he hit only right around 200. but he's swinging the bat better. He got on base the other night a couple of times on bases on balls against Carpenter the first night. Did not start last night. Nice level swing and a 2-out base hit.
So Bruce on at first, and Drew Stubbs, the 2-out batter. You see how 2009, at least the current month and the two before, have shaken out for Jay Bruce. Drew Stubbs last night in the 6th inning drove in 2 runs. He has driven in a pair of runs in each of his last 2 starts. He was 1 for 3 with a walk through the course of the whole evening. Hitting .234. It has gone deep 14 times.
You know, despite having a real low batting average, he's got quite a few runs batted in. I mean, considering you're hitting .234 and only have 14 bombs, 53 ribeyes is not too bad.
Count 1-1 on Drew Stubbs with those 53 ribeyes. Jay Bruce the lead at first, being held on by Pujols. Now 1-2.
This is where you shorten your swing right here, because if you continue to have a long swing against the guy with the stuff of Wainwright, he'll put you away. Protect the dish, take the ball the other way if you can.
Prior to this at bat, Drew Stubbs 1 for 5 against Adam Wainwright.
Cardinal defense now, their outfielders are playing very deep. They want to protect against a double right here. They figure that a double will score Jay Bruce from first base. So you see Holliday way out there in left field, and the same way for Rasmus and John Jay Wright, playing very deep.
Grounded right at Ryan. Gets the force out at second, and the 2nd inning complete. No score, Reds and Cardinals after 2.
Well, you know, you ask yourself, are the Reds ready for prime time? When you match up against the team that is the team to beat in the league, that's when you really find out how you are. It's one thing beating up on the teams that you match up well against. Both of these teams match up well against, you know, teams like the Pirates and the Diamondbacks and the Cubs and so on, those teams that are underperforming this year. But head-to-head is where you really size yourself up. And you got to still give the Cardinals an edge right now. Doesn't mean that the Cardinals are going to get to the playoffs ahead of the Reds, but, you know, based on what we've seen so far this year, you know, when you see the top 3 pitchers in the Cardinal rotation, you got to give them an edge.
Felipe Lopez bunting to try and get on base. Arroyo will get it to Votto. Lopez retired.
Well, Bronson Arroyo is a good athlete, and you better make a pretty good bunt down the first baseline if you're going to beat him to the bag. He gets off the mound very quickly. He's quick. He's not a bad runner at all, and Lopez, batting left-handed, just slides it right down there. That's a good bunt and still turns into an out.
You know, being here on a day game, a business person special, it makes you think back to July 1st, that afternoon getaway game against the Dodgers, in which he hit a home run. Bronson Arroyo got the win on the mound and was involved in 3 double plays that went 3-6-1. Speaking to that athleticism you referred to, Chris. John Jay, the one-out batter.
Well, the Reds have 3 pitchers in their rotation that can really do the little things. And I'm not taking anything away from Cueto or Edinson Volquez, but as far as fielding the position and doing the little things in the batter's box and so on, the Reds really excel with Arroyo, Mike Leake, and Travis Wood. Wood will be back, by the way.
Base hit for John Jay. So he'll be on at first base.
And any time as a pitcher that you can turn yourself in to the 5th infielder after you've released the ball, you give yourself an advantage. I mean, some pitchers are completely turned around with their back towards home plate when they finish their delivery, and they're in no position to field anything. And more balls will get through the middle, obviously.
And we've seen Mike Leake and Travis Wood and Bronson Arroyo do just that, handle the middle of the diamond when the ball comes back at them. With a runner on, it's Albert Pujols. In his first at-bat, he fouled out to end the first to Joey Votto.
Got in on him with a fastball the first time, and you know, you can't pitch Albert just one way. He's such a good hitter. You've got to mix it up. Just try to stay away from the sweet spot. The sweet spot on his bat seems like it's 3 feet wide.
It does. You pitch him one way the same way, you won't have that many opportunities.
And I think that he, like a lot of other hitters, is a guess hitter. He may not call himself a guess hitter. He may say, well, I'm just looking for certain pitches in certain counts. But obviously, that was a waist-high fastball on the outer part of the plate. He was looking for something else.
Count is 1-1 to the Cardinal first baseman.
And what makes him so good is that he didn't swing at a pitch early in the count that he wasn't ready for.
So he's not working backwards and working at a disadvantage. He is hitting in 10 straight games coming into play today, Albert Pujols.
Well, he's always the difference maker. And if you get the Cardinals when Albert's not seeing the ball very well, you're lucky. If you're getting him when he is seeing the ball well and carrying the ball club, there's not a lot you can do about it, except maybe pitch around him.
Now Dusty Baker has come out of the dugout, and he's walking toward the field. If they're concerned something's wrong with Bronson Arroyo, he's going right to the second base zone. Larry Vanover.
Well, John Jay is over on second base. I'm not sure what they're talking about. Was that a balk called on Arroyo?
It must have been.
Delayed steal.
It must have been.
That was the last pitch right there. The pitch before was a foul ball.
So maybe Dusty was just making sure it wasn't a ball.
Or a foul ball.
1-1 pitch, Pujols. Banked foul. So a 1-out single, and now John Jay is at second base. It is a balk.
I didn't see the balk. I mean, usually a balk like that happens when you don't pause. Maybe Bronson gave an extra flip of his glove at the very bottom of his delivery.
So a runner in scoring position for the Cardinals with 1 out.
and it was a foul ball that he moved to second base on John Jay, and that was the balk right before he threw it. We're going to try to show it to you again, but it looked like he gave an extra flip of his glove at the very bottom of his delivery there.
Pujols spanks this one foul.
We'll take another look at what that balk was. Right at the very bottom of his delivery, he stops, and then he moves it again. And before he moves it again and lifts his leg up, he moves his glove. And I think that's where the balk was. Balk, well, boy, hardly discernible there, but they caught him, and that's why Dusty Baker went out to talk to the second base umpire, Larry Vanover.
It's the fourth career balk against Arroyo, the first he's been guilty of since 2005.
I have to see that several times to be convinced.
The count now even at 2-2 on Albert Pujols. John Jay at second, 1 out. Scoreless game here in the top of the third inning at Great American Ballpark. These two teams tied atop the National League Central Division standings. Rowland fields that ball. 2 down as Pujols is retired.
We'll look at the balk once again, and I'm going back to the fact, does he stop? He takes it there, and then he really does. That's what it is, evidently, that Larry Vanover called him for not having a discernible stop. You've got to stop with your glove, stop with your body before you end up going to the plate. The rule says that you can continue action and throw to a base, but once you decide to go to the plate, you have to have a discernible stop. And evidently on that particular play or pitch to the plate, Arroyo didn't do that. He nodded in agreement eventually to Larry Vanover. So no argument from him, just a discussion by Dusty.
Matt Holliday, the 2-out batter. Singled in his first at-bat to lead off the second inning.
Hey, if you watch Arroyo, he's real close to doing that almost every time.
I was just thinking that.
That's the first time he's been called on it since what?
2005.
Well,
percentage is pretty good there.
All right, so they're talking about Matt Holliday. This guy's on fire right now. He knocked in a lot of runs last night. What, did he have 4 hits last night, the guy did? Really tore the Reds apart. Had 2 hits in the first night. And with a base open, even with a left-handed Colby Rasmus coming up next, you're behind in the count. How aggressive do you want to be in this at-bat with Holliday? And if you do want to be aggressive, how do you want to pitch to him?
Balls that came right up off of Holliday.
Every run in a game pitched by Adam Wainwright is important. You don't know here in the second or third inning whether this is going to be a 1-0 ball game or a 7-8 ball game. But all indications are with these two pitchers that it's going to be a low-scoring affair.
Here you get a glimpse of how hot Matt Holliday has been. 7-game hitting streak. And we talked about it on Monday. Early in the year, he was not providing the kind of threat behind Pujols in the batting lineup that the Cardinals probably would have wanted. 2-1 the count. John Jay out at second base, singled, and then on a balk, advanced to the middle of the diamond. And Holliday now 7 for 23 in his career against Bronson Arroyo after that base hit in the second. 2-1. Now 2-2. In case nobody's noticed, it is hot.
You know, Paul,
it is hot.
All those thousands of viewers that are watching us at home in the comfort of their living room on big screen TVs with that AC blasting,
or in their offices.
They're not interested in that.
No, they are. They could care.
But I feel for you, partner.
I feel for you too. Feel for those folks sitting out there in the stands today. 93 degrees, but it feels like 1,000. Got him. Still scoreless after 2.5. 1990 team celebration. The first 4,500 full-paying weekend guests this month will receive a Marge Schott bobblehead. This exclusive bobblehead features the former Reds owner, her dog Shotzi, and the 1990 World Series trophy. To learn more, call 513-765-7923 or visit redsmuseum.org. And it is a must if you're a Reds fan to get
What is
to the
that,
museum.
5 of the 6 in the series?
Is that what it is?
I believe so, yeah.
Ryan Hannigan, the lead off the bottom of the third for the Reds in a scoreless game. So for those of you who are the bobblehead collectors, that is one to add to your collection. This is the first appearance in the series for Ryan Hannigan. Faces Adam Wainwright, and he takes one in tight.
Well, Wainwright really is good at being able to get that ball in on right-handers. He doesn't overthrow it. The difference between Wainwright and Carpenter, I mean, they both look very similar. They're both very tall right-handers with good curveballs. So Wainwright's curveball might be a little better, and Carpenter might throw a little harder. Of course, Carpenter's been around a lot longer. He's established himself as one of the premier pitchers in the game. And Wainwright has learned a lot from him.
They make quite a combination. And when you throw what Garcia did in there last night, it's quite a trio.
He was very impressive.
Yeah, the key's going to be for them. Who's going to round it out? Kyle Loesch maybe is going to get back.
Well, that's why they picked up Jake Westbrook.
There you go.
And Westbrook has him a nice piece to the number 4 spot in the rotation. And when you get to the playoffs, if they get to the playoffs, that's really all you need.
There have been injury concerns with Brad Penny. Count now full on Ryan Hannigan, who's had an RBI in 6 of his last 7 appearances. He's out of that catching duo, which we've crowed about quite a bit. Ramon Hernandez on Monday, homered. Adam Wainwright ready for the payoff pitch to Ryan Hannigan. And another chance for Schumacher. 1 gone. And we'll take a peek at the Honda standings here in the National League Central Division. And certainly everybody knows by now, with the Cardinals having won the first 2, the 2 teams are tied. There's a percentage point difference that gives St. Louis a brief edge. Also, the Reds, the Cardinals, and the Giants, what's not shown there is they are all now tied for the lead in the National League wild card race. After today, 3 more head-to-head matchups. That is Labor Day weekend in St. Louis. Bronson Arroyo starts off with a strike. It'll be Friday night, Saturday afternoon, and Sunday afternoon, Labor Day weekend at Busch Stadium. Count now 1-1 on the Reds pitcher. There's a look at the wild card. Philadelphia still trying to make a race out of it in the National League East. The Giants trying to deal with San Diego out in the West. You talked about Tim Lincecum and the Giants. Well, that's a club when you think about what Buster Posey has done as a young hitter. Arroyo gets a piece of that one. But San Diego just keeps rolling along. Arroyo 8 for 37 at the plate this year. The Reds pitchers hitless in their last 39 at-bats. That one's chopped foul, and that's only notable because for a while the Reds pitchers, notably Mike Leake, were hitting the ball so darn well. Arroyo a homer and 7 driven in on the year. That homer came in the beginning of July in a day game here against the Dodgers. Count now even at 2-2. After today, an off day tomorrow for the Reds, and then they'll host the Florida Marlins over the weekend. Edinson Volquez and Josh Johnson, the starters for Friday night's game. Count now runs full. Saturday night, Mike Leake and Sean West. Sunday afternoon, Johnny Cueto and Anibal Sanchez. John Jay under it. 2 gone. Back to the top of the order. Florida comes in after having just dealt with the Cardinals in 2 games this past weekend. The two of them will have to make up the game that was rained out on Sunday at some point in time. Brandon Phillips, who bounced out to the pitcher.
Yeah, that may be a factor, too, as you look ahead. The Cardinals, they're not scheduled to go back to Florida. The Florida folks adamant that that game will be made up at one time or another because obviously they want that gate. And if the Marlins are able to get back into the race, they want that to be important to them. So the Cardinals could play every day the last 30 games of the year. Of course, that violates the basic agreement between the owners and the players where you can't play any more 20 consecutive days without a day off. So it does complicate the scheduling towards the end of the year. They may have to play an extra day at the end of the year. Or they just take an off day in between and fly on back down to Miami and play that ball game.
The season ends at home for St. Louis on Sunday, October 3rd with Colorado. Phillips again right back to Adam Wainwright.
Boy, he's been an easy out in this series.
He sure has. No score after 3. JTM, food, family, fun. JTM by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit us at geico.com or call 1-800-947-AUTO. And by GMC, we are professional grade. Welcome back to Great American Ballpark. Paul Keels, Chris Welsh, Jeff Picoro, Jim Day, and the rest of our crew from Fox Sports Ohio. Reds and Cardinals are scoreless as we move to the top of the 4th inning. And another good-sized crowd on hand here for the series finale, and we hope that folks will jump on the bandwagon and show up this weekend when the Reds host Florida. Bronson Arroyo pitching zeros opposite Adam Wainwright. He'll start off the 4th with Colby Rasmus, Yadier Molina, and Skip Schumacher to bat. You see what Rasmus did in his first at-bat. Bronson Arroyo certainly continuing to be a workhorse for the Reds in each of the last 5 seasons. At least 32 starts, 200 innings pitched. And he's one of 4 who've done the 200-inning thing. Rasmus trying to go the opposite way. Gomes will set up and make the grab shy of the warning track. For the first down to the 4th inning. One of 4 pitchers with at least 200 innings in each of the last 5 seasons. Arroyo, Dan Herron, Javier Vasquez, and Mark Burley. Some pretty good ones. Guess who's at the plate now? Lucifer? It might as well be.
You know, if you're a visiting player, you have to take that as a compliment.
Molina grounds this at Paul Yanish. Now he'll hear the opposite version of the cheers. 3 pitches and 2 outs for Bronson Arroyo. Molina 0 for 2.
Good sinker right there. And, you know, if you're Bronson Arroyo, you want to conserve your pitches, obviously, on any day, but even more so on a day like today.
59 pitches so far for the Reds right-hander.
Used to be, Paul, back in the days of Riverfront Stadium, you know, when it was all AstroTurf, the coolest spot on the field was the pitcher's mound, because it was the only place that wasn't covered in plastic. That plastic would absorb the heat and then radiate it back, and it would be not uncommon to see temperatures of 135, 140 degrees on the turf in places like St. Louis or Cincinnati.
Had a chance to yak with Al Hrabowski before the game started, the former Cardinal reliever who's in their TV booth. And Hungo was saying he thought it was always hotter here than in St. Louis. Just always seemed to be warmer here. The Mad Hungarian. Phillips can't quite get to that bounce.
Man, oh man, I'll tell you what, I've said it once and I'll say it probably 100 times here before the end of the week, but the ball really getting through the infield here. I mean, it's got to be a very tough challenge for Doug Gallant and the rest of the Reds ground crew just to try to keep the field in good playing shape. I know what your lawns look like at home. They're all brown and rock hard and crusty, and they water this field constantly, but that ball just continues to rocket through there almost like an AstroTurf field. Good effort by Brandon.
Just missed it. Both of Schumacher's base hits going through the right side of the infield. This one Phillips backs up on from Wainwright. And that'll take care of the Cardinals. Game remains scoreless. And who are the only 2 Reds catchers with 100-plus career home runs as a Red? I'd say that's pretty easy. You would think that's Johnny Bench, Ernie Lombardi would be the first guess. We'll have the answer coming up, probably in the next half inning. Adam Wainwright locked in a scoreless pitching duel with Bronson Arroyo here at Great American. Paul Janisch will lead off the bottom of the 4th for the Reds. They'll be followed by Joey Votto and Scott Rowland. And Janisch is looking for his first base hit of the series. The Red shortstop settles in, and Adam Wainwright Will serve him up his first one of this frame. Yanish 0 for 7 in the series so far. Brendan Ryan. One gone.
Well, we gave you the pitch breakdown of Bronson Arroyo, how he's very difficult to guess with because he uses so many different pitches. Well, the same can be said of Adam Wainwright. Primarily, though, they've grouped his sinker and fastball together. He doesn't throw very many four-seamers at all, so his sinker is his fastball. His next favorite pitch, obviously, is curved near 30% of the time. 11% slider, sometimes those are cutters. And now that changeup percentage is going to begin to go up since he learned a better changeup from Tim Lincecum at the All-Star break. I got to figure he's going to use it more.
Pujols fields that grounder by Votto. Quickly, Wainwright has gotten the Reds to commit their first 2 outs of the game.
Well, Albert plays every day, is a tough out, obviously, and plays a pretty good first base.
We've mentioned it a few times over the course of the year. Remember, as a young player, they weren't sure where they were going to play him. Had him some in the outfield.
Yeah, they had him at third base, outfield. Eventually, first base opened up.
Scott Rowland is the 2-out batter.
Of course, as I remember, when he first broke on the scene, wasn't Mark McGwire still on the team with St. Louis? So there was no vacancy at first base.
No, there was not. But give him credit. He's worked over there at first base. He really, really has.
Hardest worker I've seen. I mean, day in, day out. If you're fortunate enough to do what I do, which is get on the road and do these baseball games, we get over the ballpark sometimes at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on the road, and there's Albert Pujols with all the other infielders, all the extra infielders, or sometimes by himself working at first base. You know, one of the first drills I saw years ago Albert Pujols do, they would set up one of the coaches over at third base, whether it was Joe Patini or Jose Oquendo with a fungo bat, and they'd hit line shots on one hop over to Albert to try to simulate, you know, one hoppers in the dirt coming from infielders. And they'd hit him as hard as they could. He would be out there for an hour doing this stuff and then get ready to play the game that night. It's the way you make yourself better. Some guys are driven to be the best in the game, and the Cardinal first baseman is one of those.
And he has also been a world-class off-the-field citizen in that community.
Interesting, we have a guy at the plate who feels the same way and has worked just as hard. It's Scott Rowland. I mean, it doesn't all come easily. These guys work very, very hard.
Outrighted Brendan Ryan. And that'll retire the Reds in order, and the game remains scoreless after 4 full here in Cincinnati. In Edmonds' career, the National League Championship Series, Cardinals against Houston, and he goes deep. There's that swing where he almost takes a hand off the bat and lets it fly. National League Championship Series walk-off home run for Jim Edmonds. Our Coors Cold Hard Blast.
Well, let's hope we see a few of those with Jim Edmonds in a Reds uniform.
Not in the lineup today. Came in late in yesterday's game. Started Monday after the trade and still searching for his first.
Talked to him about his part in the melee last night. Really part as a peacemaker. He ended up between Tony La Russa and Dusty Baker in that. But what concerned him the most was that Dave Duncan had fallen right before at that point in the melee. And the guys were trampling on Dave Duncan. Now, Dave Duncan getting up there in years, and he was quite concerned for Duncan.
Ryan Hannigan chases down that foul fly ball from Brendan Ryan for the first out.
And that's the spot right now that's tougher on anybody, is being the catcher. Whether you're Molina or Ryan Hannigan today, boy, you're going to lose about 10 to 15 pounds of water weight. You got to continue to drink a lot of fluid, because you're going to be making plays like this that your pitcher desperately needs you to make.
Felipe Lopez, the one-out batter. Now, back in the days at Riverfront, when it was this hot and nasty, the ammonia water and the cabbage leaves, Bernie Stowe passed all that out?
Absolutely.
Cabbage leaves in the ball caps, right?
Every once in a while, some wise guy would bring an egg and crack it open on the turf, and you see it fry right there.
Line right at Roland. 2 out. Who would do that? Are you allowed to name names?
Oh, there were so many guys that did that.
Okay.
It's a long list.
Perfect position by Roland. 3 pitches, 2 outs. Just trying to picture that. Take an egg, walk it right out there and crack it and let it sizzle.
It's just tough to get the spatula underneath it to flip it, because that AstroTurf was wasn't exactly a Teflon finish.
John Jay at the plate. Single and a strikeout. Would imagine you had to initially adjust quite a bit to that ammonia water. It'd be pretty fragrant.
Well, you don't drink it.
No. I mean, just having it around that close to you.
Yeah, well, you can dilute it enough that you soak a towel in it. What they do is they take a big cooler, fill it full of water and ice, and then put a few drops of ammonia in there, and then put some towels in, and you kind of breathe through the towel with the cool water on the towel and the ammonia, and it has a tendency to wake you up a little bit.
But the guys you mentioned, the catchers, feeling for them, Chris. How about the umps? They don't get to go into the dugout and get any shade at all.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
You see some water run out to the guys. And 2-2 pitch. Arroyo to John Jay and another foul.
How about we get him some water when they make a good call?
They might be thirsty for a while then. No, I'm kidding.
No, it's not easy. You're right about that. I mean, they're standing out there for some of these games are going to last more than 3 hours. Part of the job.
Yes, it is. 2-2 the count. Bases clear, 2 out. Scoreless ball game. Now full. Here we are in the top of the 5th inning in the series finale. Payoff pitch, Bronson Arroyo to John Jay. And he will flare that one fair into left field. And John Jay is going to end up with his 16th double of the year and the 3rd double he has had in this series.
Yeah, he's had one in every ball game, and the one he had yesterday was the same way, a line drive over the head of Scott Rowland. This one not all that well hit, but still well placed. Jay's an interesting hitter, and the Cardinals have really given him a vote of confidence when they traded Ryan Ludwig to the San Diego Padres in a 3-way deal that ended up getting them Jake Westbrook from Cleveland Indians. They essentially gave John Jay the right field job. In this series, he's looked like a pretty good hitter.
He sure has. Albert Pujols is going to get a free pass to first base. Understandably so. He was given an intentional walk last night. And that'll be the first base on balls issued today by Bronson Arroyo.
Well, worth noting that we told you this last night. After the Reds walked Albert Pujols, Matt Holliday came up and singled and drove in some runs. He overall this year, when you walk Albert Pujols intentionally to get to Matt Holliday, it's happened 15 times to date. He is 5 for 15 and has picked up 10 runs batted in. So we'll see if Matt Holliday is up to the task once again.
And there's a look where Albert stands, as in most categories, at the top. That situation last night occurred in the 7th, the intentional walk, and then Holliday with a 2-run single, and then an error allowed a 3rd run to score. That was Pujols who scored the 3rd run. And a very heads-up play coming all the way from first. So 2 on and 2 out.
You know, he's had some seeing eye base hits in this series, but he hits the ball so hard. Even his ground balls are hit so hard that on a fast field like it is here at Great American, the ball just gets through the infield and he ends up getting a base hit. His extra base hits are down this year, but his overall run production is still there.
Took a little something off and missed the target. Bronson Arroyo. Holliday struck out to end the 3rd, singled to lead off the 2nd. John Jay out at 2nd after a double. Albert Pujols at 1st following an intentional walk. The earlier mentioned a pitch count for Arroyo. We understand that there's a discrepancy between the scoreboard pitch count and what it actually is. Point being, Arroyo's around the 50 pitch mark right now. Excuse me.
I think 75 pitch count. They're only off by about 2 or 3 pitches.
He was looking at the
And when it's 95 degrees out, we'll accept that margin.
This will be pitch number 79 coming up. Ball 4. Loads him up.
Boy, Arroyo wanted to know where one of those curveballs was. He threw him a 3-0 curveball because he was not about to give Matt Holliday a fastball, thinking that he would be looking for a fastball. So now the challenge continues, but this time with a left-handed hitter. Take another look at this. 3-0. That's out of the zone, even though a attempted frame job by Ryan Hannigan.
So back-to-back walks following the double to John Jay. Colby Rasmus 0 for 2.
A couple of easy fly outs for Rasmus.
And the Cardinals with a genuine threat cooking here.
We're not good this year with bases loaded.
And let's hope that continues right here. Good start to Rasmus for Arroyo.
Well, that's a key pitch. When you get bases loaded like that and you can throw a first pitch strike on the knees on the corner, what an advantage it gives you. If this ball goes for a ball and you're 1-0, it's a big difference. Fox Tracks didn't like it as a strike.
But Mark Carlson did.
We'll get him some water.
There you go. Fly ball opposite way. Gomes chasing into the corner. And a foul ball.
Well, Gomes goes out of our sight as we look out from the press box area, but it's down in the corner there. I don't know how far that ball was from being fair. Gomes barely got there, trying to put the brakes on so he doesn't go headlong into that wall.
So now 0-2 the count.
Yeah, 0-2. Now Arroyo's in command.
John Jay at 3rd. Albert Pujols at 2nd. Matt Holliday at 1st. And Colby Rasmus in an 0-2 hole. The crowd getting behind Bronson Arroyo with 2 outs. And it will continue. Trying to get him to chase a batter.
You know, there was some speculation in St. Louis as to why the Cardinals did not block the trade of Jim Edmonds to the Reds. They had a chance to do so because their record wasn't as good as the Reds at the time the trade was made. And a lot of the speculation led to the fact that they thought it may be a conflict in playing time for Edmonds versus this young man, Colby Rasmus, only 23 years old.
2-2 pitch.
So by not claiming Edmonds, who would have been obviously a fan favorite in St. Louis, it's another vote of confidence for a young player.
Start of the day, Rasmus hitting .272, 18 homers, 50 driven in. he's presented with an opportunity here to reward that confidence. 24th pitch of the inning coming up for Bronson Arroyo. Rasmus doing a nice job staying alive here.
And everything but the kitchen sink being thrown out there by Bronson Arroyo. He got him 0-2. Now, Arroyo doesn't have the kind of fastball to just rear back and blaze it by him. Tried to make him chase upstairs. Has thrown him a breaking ball. Threw him a sidearm curveball that time on the inner part of the plate. Now, Ryan Hannigan's going to go out there and say, all right, what are you thinking about? And Arroyo will probably say, I don't know, what are you thinking about? But they'll come to something here right now, not necessarily on the 2-2 pitch only, but also if the count goes 3-2. But this is the main pitch. You want to get a guy on a decision of some kind on a 2-2 count. You go 3-2 with the bases loaded, everybody's off and running, and a base hit can score at least 2, maybe more.
Rasmus last night with an RBI double. 1 for 6. Bases full of Cardinals. 2 out and no score here in the top of the 5th. Now it's full. Trying to get him to go fishing. 8th pitch of the at-bat coming up. And nowhere to put him. Here's the breakdown by inning.
Biggest pitch of the game so far.
Center field, Stubbs chasing, going back, Stubbs, and it is a grand slam for Colby Rasmus. The second grand slam the Cardinals have hit in this series. And they're up 4-0.
Man, oh man. A good at bat by Colby Rasmus. I guess that's an understatement. He worked the count from 0-2 to 3-2 and got a sinking fastball and took it right out the front door. How about that?
His 19th of the year. Grounded by Molina off of Roland. And Roland still with a chance. Throws him out. But Colby Rasmus goes deep with the bases loaded, and 4-0. St. Louis with the lead after 4.5.
Of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cincinnati Reds.
Reds have some catching up to do. We move on to the bottom of the 5th inning. Johnny Gomes steps in. Jim Day back with you. I'm just beside the Reds dugout, and this is probably the hottest day I've ever felt here at Great American Ballpark. And Dusty Baker is such a player's manager. He is so worried about the young players and them getting through the dog days of August. Days like today, guys like Drew Stubbs who have trouble keeping weight during the season. He takes it so far that he actually brings in food for the younger players, the proper food for them to eat. And he learned this way back. Asked him, where'd you learn this? He said, when I was a rookie with the Braves, my first road trip, when it got hot, someone sent room service to my room every single morning. I ate it, not knowing who it was. I thought it was a mistake. And about a week later, his teammate, the great, and I mean great, Hank Aaron, came up to him and said, hey, Dust, you been eating that food I sent you? He said, you've been sending me that food? Why? He says, because you need to keep your weight during these dog days of August. Take care of yourself. Dusty Baker has carried that into being a manager. The player's manager, ultimate extremes there.
Great story right there, Jim. No question about that. I'll tell you what, the lessons you learn as a youngster, you keep as an adult and you pass it on down. Great story.
Johnny Gomes to lead off the inning here for the Reds in the bottom of the 5th. And Cincinnati, as Jim mentioned, trying to come from behind after the Colby Rasmus grand slam. Down by 4. Now, you think about some of those Atlanta teams. Most people remember Dusty as a player with the Dodgers.
Well, of course, back in those days also, they didn't have the kind of food that they serve at clubhouses nowadays. I mean, you go into a clubhouse now, whether it's in the visiting side or home side, you're looking at like a 4-star restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
There's food galore. It used to be you'd have to scratch and claw to find yourself a box of Cheerios.
Gomes goes down on strikes.
Well, Wainwright's got it working, and just looked it up a little while ago. He has only given up more than 4 runs in a ball game once this year. And that curveball has a lot to do with it. Second time that he has put Johnny Gomes down on a curveball, once on a ground ball, and that real good one for a strikeout.
That's the first of the day for Adam Wainwright. Jay Bruce screams one foul down the line. Yeah, probably back then when Dusty was at Atlanta, you're probably looking at burgers, pizza. I'm just guessing what your clubhouse fare might have been. Maybe some chicken.
Of course, as a rookie, too, he was probably getting paid so little amount of money that he couldn't afford room service at the hotel even if he wanted.
Yeah,
really. Things have changed, but Dusty will take care of his players. That is for certain.
I think back to those Atlanta teams, you had not only Dusty Baker as a young outfielder, Cito Gaston. Two and 1 the count to Jay Bruce. Singled in his first at-bat in the 2nd inning. Of course, former Reds manager Davey Johnson was part of one of those Braves teams in the early 70s. And you and Tom were talking about this not too long ago. That year in which you had Hank Aaron, Davey Johnson, and Darrell Evans all over 30 home runs. After Davey Johnson had been a light-hitting second baseman in Baltimore most of his career. Full count to Jay Bruce. With 1 out here in the bottom of the 5th, and the Reds down by 4. That's a fair ball chopped in front of the plate.
Well, it didn't hit Jay Bruce at all, and the ball went in play, so it's going to be a fair ball. Dusty Baker's going to argue that. He's going to argue whether that ball went off at Jay Bruce's foot. Bruce didn't move out of the box, which may give Dusty an indication that it did hit him. He's going to ask, hey, will you please get help somewhere?
Dusty kibitzing with Mark.
Take another look and see if we can see that ball going off any part of Jay Bruce's body. It's behind the plate.
Looks like it did. And now the umps are going to get together to discuss it. At least on first glance, it looked like it did.
I can't say it did. I mean, you say it did look like it did?
I thought it did, but we may get another gander at it here.
This may give us a little more definitive look. Not so far. It looked like it hit behind the plate and then bounded into fair territory. That is a fair ball. I think they got it right.
Yep. They did.
Well, get him some more water.
The eyes were deceiving. It's a 2 out now for Drew Stubbs. He bounced into a fielder's choice to end the second inning.
Boy, he's got a curveball working today. I mean, not like he doesn't always, but some days more than others. And a hot day like today, not all that much humidity, but boy, that yacker is really working for him.
Ahead in the count, 0-1 to the Red center fielder. Wainwright finished 3rd in the Cy Young voting last year.
And back-to-back yackers. You know, sometimes you'll hear me call it a curveball, a yacker, a Lord Charles, an Uncle Charlie, a yellowhammer, a roundhouse. They're all the same pitch.
Are they?
Just a matter of degree. Wainwright's got one to the nth degree.
2-1 the count. Now 2-2 to Drew Stubbs. On deck, Ryan Hannigan.
You know, one of the things that makes Wainwright's curveball so effective is that it comes in there slow. It comes in there in the mid-70s. So not only does it have pretty good break on it, but it has a tendency to get the hitters way out in front. Then you throw them a couple of those curveballs in a row and you velocitize the hitter. You get them looking for something slow, then you zip the fastball by him. And that's what he's tried to do in this at-bat with Drew Stubbs. First couple of curveballs, and then ever since that time, he's thrown fastballs in the low 90s.
On the year, he's 1-1 against the Reds. Payoff pitch coming from Wainwright to Drew Stubbs. And a base hit. First of the day for Drew Stubbs.
You know, the Reds can't expect to get all their runs back in one inning, not with 2 outs. So now with Drew Stubbs on base, and he's by far the fastest of all the Reds. You have Ryan Hannigan coming up next. Wouldn't be a bad idea to go ahead and let Drew Stubbs see if he can't steal a base right here. Then you get a man on, and maybe Ryan Hannigan can drive him in. You pick up a run here. But the way Wainwright has been pitching, he's only given up 2 hits today. Your chances of getting 2 or 3 or 4 hits in an inning are minimal. In fact, he came very close to throwing a no-hitter his last time out. Pitched against the Marlins. He gave up 2 hits. One of those was a bunt hit. The other was a bloop.
There you see what Ryan Hannigan's day has been like. And he looks at the strike. Stubbs over at first, 18 steals, caught 3 times this year.
Yeah, well, stealing a base against the Cardinals is a lot easier said than done. Molina's the best in the baseball as far as throwing them down.
He sure is. 2 outs. And the count 1-1 to the Reds catcher. Bill Bray is working in the bullpen. Nobody in the on-deck circle at the moment. Strike 2. What's made Wainwright's year so good this year? Best home record in the majors at 11-0. And we'll get time called by Mark Carlson as Wainwright was in his motion. Also at home, Wainwright a 1.22 ERA. Big road assignment here for the Cardinal right-hander. Stubbs leading at first. And Lopez behind the bag has it. And now is Hannigan as Pujols couldn't scoop it.
Lopez backed up on this ball, but he wanted to play it on the big hop. And when he tried to throw it over to first base, just didn't put enough on it to get it across the infield. And normally, Albert Pujols is able to scoop that ball up, but he kind of lifts his chin up a little bit, maybe takes his eye off of it. And Ryan Hannigan will reach on the error by the third baseman, Felipe Lopez.
So Lance Nix on the pinch hit for Bronson Arroyo.
Now, this is, you know, you don't get many chances against Wainwright. So when you do get a couple of runners on base, if you're pitcher comes around, his spot comes around, and he gave up a 4 spot in the inning with a grand slam, regardless of how well he has pitching. You got to go to your bullpen and take advantage of whatever rally you got going.
Lance Nix with a pinch hit base hit last night, working in the 9th inning. The Reds down 4, but a couple on with 2 out. And Wainwright starts Nix off with a ball. So Bronson Arroyo's day is done. Lance Nix has reached base in his last 6 pinch hit appearances. 4 for 4 with a couple of walks. Stubbs at second, Hannigan at first. And Lance Nix grounds this one. It's short. Ryan will get it. And the Reds leave a couple stranded at 4-0 St. Louis after 5.
Cardinals leading 4-0. Jim Day back with you once again. And these weekday day games certainly add a different dynamic to the mix. And today's Fox Sports Ohio textbook question is brought to you by Meyer. We want to know what's your favorite thing about these weekday day games? Leaving work early? We love to play hooky now, don't we? If you plan your nights around Reds baseball, you have the rest of the day or your evening free. Great place for lunch, even serving sushi now at the ballpark. Or simply fun in the sun, although I'm not sure the sun is too fun today. Text your votes at 37664. Standard text message rates apply. Well, the results coming up. Sun, not my friend today. You mentioned losing weight, guys. I think I've lost about 10 pounds of girth myself. I can afford it. The players cannot.
Well, some of us found it up here. Your thought on day games during the week, Chris?
I love day games during the week. I like that. I would vote for getting off work early.
Probably.
And then having the rest of the day free.
And for those that are at work, it's kind of nice if you've got a job where you can at least pay attention either to the TV or the radio and have something to get you through the day. And
it would be even more encouraging if the Reds could score a few crooked numbers up there. In the meantime, Bill Bray will take over, the left-hander, recovering from Tommy John surgery, and has availed himself very well since being recalled out of the minor leagues.
Struck out one in 2/3 of an inning of work last night. Bill Bray did, and he starts the top of the 6th working against Skip Schumacher, and the Cardinals, as you can see up in the upper left-hand corner, have a 4-0 lead. So look at the text poll results as Hannigan scoops that one out. Rest of the day free. Now that's assuming you can get off work or get out of whatever you're supposed to do to get here.
Well, if you sit out in the hot sun for 2.5 hours here, I'm not so sure your coworkers want you back in the office.
That's true. Unless you got a shower at your place of business. Down in the middle of the diamond. Drew Stubbs has it for the first out. So Schumacher is retired.
Well, there was excitement, of course, the last couple of nights at this ballpark. Nothing compared to last night in the first inning when the bench is emptied. And there was a certain buzz in this ballpark today, but that grand slam home run by Colby Rasmus just has sucked the life out of the fans that have come out here on this warm day.
It sure has.
Much in the way that Skip Schumacher's opposite field grand slam did the other night against Mike Leake.
Adam Wainwright 0 for 1 with a walk at the plate. We were talking about day games. There are those of us that are old enough to remember when all of the World Series games used to be during the day. And when you were in grade school, like some of us were, the teachers would put it on the TV. Wainwright bounces a base hit up the middle. So he gets a one-out hit. Time for our AT&T trivia answer. The question was, who are the two Reds catchers with 100 or more career home runs? And the guess from this corner of the booth was Bench and Lombardi. He got one right for a change.
That's a layup for you.
Yes, it is. Well, not for me.
And for most people.
Most people, yes. Johnny Bench. You see him connecting with one.
And that was a good one.
Yes.
Playoff game there, right?
Game 5 of the 72 National League Championship Series against the Pirates. Brendan Ryan grounds this one into right for a base hit. The Cardinals keep pounding out the hits and keep working the opposite side of the field.
Well, they've had a dozen hits in each of the first 2 ball games in this series. Meanwhile, the Reds bats have pretty much gone to sleep. They have only mustered 6 hits in the first 2 games of the series.
Yeah, we talked about Ernie Lombardi. There's kind of a folklore tale going around that Ernie Lombardi has the longest home run ever hit in Reds history. He hit one at Crosley Field that landed in the bed of a truck going down I-75, and the ball was found down in Tennessee someplace. Truck driver didn't know it was back there. True or not, who knows?
Sounds good.
Yeah. Felipe Lopez now on the right side of the dish.
Yeah, better hitter from this side. This is his natural side. More power anyway. But he's a dangerous hitter from either side.
One out, and Bill Bray in relief of Bronson Arroyo. Gets Lopez to pop it up. Brandon Phillips will call for this for the second out as the infield fly rule was in effect.
Well, this is the guy you want if you're Bill Bray, because you know who's on deck, and you certainly don't want the Cardinals to add on here after they scored 4 in the 5th.
And it's already been a 2-base hit day for John Jay. There's who's on deck. Double in the 5th and a single in the 3rd for John Jay. Making him forget about Ryan Ludwig with the way he's hit in this series. Now 2-0. The count favoring the batter, John Jay. Dusty Baker having to go to the bullpen early.
Well, there's a right-hander in the pen. Jordan Smith is down there warming up in the event that Bray loses John Jay, but Bray's got to throw some strikes right here. This is the guy you have to go after. You want to put that young man in a position of having to throw to Albert Pujols with the bases loaded.
Strike to John Jay. And try and get the Cardinals to leave 2 stranded, and they've already left 5 stranded. 2-1. Bill Bray against John Jay. Gets the outside corner.
2 good back-to-back fastballs there. One on the inside corner on a 2-0. The other on the outside corner on a 2-1. Now he's got him back into a situation he can drop that slider on him.
Phillips in position for this one to end the inning. Still 4-0. St. Louis after 5.5. Colby Rasmus with the bases loaded, on target with that swing. The second grand slam of the series for the Cardinals, the 19th homer of the year for Colby Rasmus. Our Coors Light Freeze Can brought to you by Frost Brewed Coors Light. And that is the difference in the game right now. 4-0 Cardinals as we move to the bottom of the 6th. The Reds trying to snap a 2-game losing streak and trying to split up what is now a tie atop the National League Central Division standings. And Adam Wainwright pitching zeros up there. Hey, all you sports fans, this Sunday, directly following the Reds Live postgame show, stay tuned to FSN Ohio and catch all of the action from the Pro Football Hall of Fame Enshrinement Festival Timken Grand Parade from Canton, Ohio. It is a one-of-a-kind celebration. So you'll get a chance to see on Sunday what happened this past weekend in Canton. Brandon Phillips 0 for 2 to lead off the bottom of the 6th. The Cardinals have kept him in check to the tune of 1 base hit so far in the series. And 1 RBI. That came on a ground out early in the game last night. Looks at a strike. One between Brandon Phillips and Paul Janisch. Defensively, they've both seen ground balls hit at them that have been just out of their reach. Some of those seeing eye base hits you've talked about, Chris, that the Cardinals have come up with. 0-2. Favor Adam Wainwright, the pitcher. And he was trying to get in tight on Brandon Phillips. Wainwright trying today for what would be his 17th win of the year if he can finish it off. Still a lot of time left, but you got to start talking about he and Ubaldo Jimenez in Cy Young consideration. Pujols will get that one in a nice pickup. First out of the inning is secured. Be at the ballpark this Saturday, to see the Reds take on the Florida Marlins. The first 20,000 fans of the game will take home a Reds Garden Gnome. Thanks to Chiquita. Get tickets now for the Marlins weekend series by calling 513-381-REDS or log on to reds.com. So you can get another Garden Gnome, Chris, for your garden to go along with the other ones you got out there.
I'm not sure how to respond to that. How'd you know I had gnomes out there? So you rustling around in the hedges at night?
That was it. Paul Janisch still searching for his first base hit of the series.
Don't pick any of my favorite vegetables out there now.
And cucumbers out there. Swipe some of those. It has been all Paul Janisch at shortstop since Orlando Cabrera was put on the disabled list last week for that oblique injury. And Janisch into right center. Coming on is Rasmus together. So 2 out. Joey Votto will be the 2-out batter. Career high 28 homers, leads the league in on-base percentage, slugging percentage, hitting against right-handers, and runs scored. And Joey looking to try and extend a 3-game hitting streak. Had a little bit of that wrist problem that had kind of jumped up on him there at Pittsburgh. When he homered in Chicago at the end of that series, didn't appear as though there was any wrist issues. That one to the opposite field, and you guys were talking about the strength he has to be able to take it deep like that.
Well, he's got plenty of strength, Joey Votto does. He's got forearms like fence posts. But he, like the rest of this Reds ball club, has just been stymied by the Cardinal pitching.
And quickly, Votto in a 2-strike hold against Wainwright. Yadier Molina thought that was strike 3.
Now they're barking from the Cardinal dugout now, especially Dave Duncan. I'm not sure they're barking at Yadier Molina saying, why are you leaving so early? They're barking at Mark Carlson saying, how can that possibly be a ball if our catcher thinks it's a strike? Take another look at it and see what Foxtrack says. He's got a point there. Best fastball of the day by Wainwright at 95.
1-2. Dave Duncan and Joe Patini kind of had to run the show for the Cardinals after Tony La Russa was ejected last night, as Chris Beyer did for the Reds with Dusty Baker gone. There's Duncan and Mark McGwire. And Votto down on strikes. Wainwright mowing right through the Reds. 4-0 St. Louis after 6. Northern Kentucky Honda dealers. Visit myCincinnatiHondaDealers.com for current offers. By Wendy's, you know when it's real. And by Hollywood Casino. Nobody has to yell action here. It's Hollywood Casino Lawrenceburg. And welcome back to Great American Ballpark. Paul Keels, Chris Welsh, Jeff Picoro, Jim Day, and the rest of our band of Pirates that bring you Reds baseball over the television. 4-0 St. Louis with the lead as we move to the top of the 7th inning. The Reds will have a new reliever out of the bullpen. Jordan Smith worked last night. He's the 3rd pitcher of the day for Dusty Baker. And the inning starts with Albert Pujols climbing in for the Cardinals. Scott rolling. Now it's Paul Janisch, and he has it in fair territory for the first out. Talk last half inning to see Jordan Smith come up and face him with the bases empty rather than what the last inning was.
Yeah, there's no question about that. I think the intensity at the at-bat would be a little bit different, too.
Counting Jason. Matt Holliday up next. George Smith, an inning last night, gave up a hit and also issued a walk. He was the final. Now the Reds 5 pitchers in their 8-4 loss to the Cardinals last night. Made the leap from Double-A to the majors. On Holliday. Joey Votto will watch that one get out of play right above the Reds dugout. Seeing Votto give chase on that reminds you of that foul ball he caught in Philadelphia in that near perfect game for Kerry Wood in the 9th inning. After the perfect game was broken up, it's still a scoreless game. That catch he made off the top of a camera. I think you brought up the fact too, Chris, that had he not got to it, Kerry Wood was right there. Or Travis
you
Wood,
mean Travis? Yes, Travis
Wood,
was
yeah.
right there.
Kerry Wood, come on, Paul. One and two, Jordan Smith to Matt Holliday.
Not everybody's brain works on a hot day, Paul. Mine included.
Hannigan gets out in front of that one in the dirt. Jordan Smith, the young man out of Utah, has rewarded Dusty Baker's confidence in him when he's been called upon. 2-2.
He's done a nice job, and if you look again, we've talked about this before, but if you look at the personal approach of a young man like Jordan Smith, in the big scheme of things, you don't know how long he's going to be here. And that's why even an inning like this, you're down by 4. Obviously, the Reds are still in this ball game, but even if you're pitching in a blowout game and you're a young pitcher and they've got guys in the pipeline in AAA ready to come off the disabled list, ready to be called up, you don't want to be the guy that gets sent down because you pitch poorly. So he's got extra motivation to keep his team in the ball game by throwing a 0 up there. His big league life might be at stake. Remember, the Reds have Aroldis Chapman, who's dealing down in AAA right now. They've got Homer Bailey, who has been converted to a reliever, or at least they're giving an opportunity for Homer to be used in relief.
And Travis Wood will be back up.
Right? He'll be back in the starting rotation. Wood will.
Yes. It is guessed that Travis Wood probably will be set up for a start on the 19th down in Phoenix against the Diamondbacks. That was kind of a guess when the roster move was made once Jim Edmonds was acquired. Full count now to Matt Holliday. 4-0 Cardinals with the lead here in the top of the 7th inning. Jordan Smith has yet to allow a run since the All-Star break. That covers 11 games, this being the 12th, 13 innings. 9 hits have been allowed, but nobody's crossed the dish. He's followed Bronson Arroyo and Bill Bray to the mound. All 4. First walk he's issued, and the third by the combination of Reds pitchers. There's the guy with the key base hit in the game right now, Colby Rasmus. A 5th inning grand slam, his 19th homer of the year, that counted for the only runs of the game so far. Prior to that, a couple of fly ball outs for the Cardinals center fielder. Smith gets a strike across. Both these teams will have the day off tomorrow. St. Louis goes home, where they'll face Chicago over the weekend. And Cincinnati will be at home with Florida.
Of course, both teams will have a day off between that, and then the Cardinals have a couple of days off scheduled in the next 10 days. The Reds hit that 3-city road trip. They're going out to the Pacific time zone. They go to Arizona first, then Los Angeles and San Francisco.
It'll be the Reds' second trip west, the first against National League opponents.
And they'll make one more, of course, because they will have yet played in San Diego.
Correct. Flared by Phillips. The Cardinals just keep chinking in the base hits.
Well, second hit of the day for Colby Rasmus, and the first one was not a chink. It was a long drive to center field with the bases loaded that accounted for all 4 runs the Cardinals have put on the board. This time it looks like he gets jammed and jammed good, but he's able to keep that bat head pointed kind of flat, and it goes right out over the second base bag for a base hit.
Yadier Molina, 0 for 3. Will stand in with a couple out on the base paths. And that one will find its way into center field, bringing in another run. 5-0 St. Louis. RBI for Yadier Molina as coming in to score Matt Holliday. Third run driven into the year for the Cardinal catcher, Yadier Molina.
Well, the Cardinals are trying to hit it back up the middle. That's a good spot. Look how hard it is in front of home plate. A big, high chopper goes over the mat and then hits the second bounce with that overspin, and there's no way even a diving Paul Giannis is going to be able to knock it down. 10 hits now for the Cardinals, 2 for the Reds. Bottom line, the Cardinals have hit and the Reds have not.
And they've done it again, bringing in another run on the base hit by Skip Schumacher. 6-0. Another example of well-placed base hits.
Well, yeah, I mean they're hitting it where they ain't right now. And Skip Schumacher had Paul Giannis snugged a little bit towards second base, thinking about a double play ball, and he finds a hole on the left side of the infield. Good hitting right there.
His third hit of the day, Skip Schumacher.
Nobody up and throwing in the Reds bullpen right now. And with 2 on and only 1 out, a 6-run ball game. Brian Price out to try to settle down Jordan Smith, but this is growing up time for this young man. Those fans who came to the ballpark in the beginning of the game, Paul, under a blazing sun and mid-90s temperatures, are at least finding a little bit of reprieve with the sun going away. The clouds, it looks like, are building big time to our west and our northwest. There are some major pop-up thunderstorms that have come through northern Cincinnati. It looks like we may be in the offing for a little bit of wet to cool things down here in the next few minutes.
Yeah, there was some talk about some of that having been over there in Indiana right before the game started. Adam Wainwright, a base hit today, 1 for 2 with a walk. And he's swinging away. That sends it foul. Again, it has been a real hyped up atmosphere here, but St. Louis has done an awful lot over the last 2 nights and today to take the crowd out of it.
Hey, Reds fans, for great. That was a foul ball?
Yes.
Didn't want to talk over a live play. I thought it was a foul ball. All right, we'll get back to it. Reds fans, remember, for great food with family and friends this summer, think JTM. Food, family, fun, JTM.
Important to get that out there. 0-2 now to Wainwright. With just 1 out, the Cardinals with a couple on and a couple in already. Smith works him inside and tight. So much as last night was the end of the scoreless streak for Logan Ondrusek, right here the end of the scoreless streak since the All-Star break for Jordan Smith. And Wainwright grounds it right at Rolla to Phillips. He'll turn, get a Devato, double play to end the inning, but the Cardinals tack on 2 more after 6.5, 6-0 St. Louis. fans 14 and under that attend the Reds-Marlins game receive a kid's catcher's backpack, which looks just like a catcher's chest protector. Get tickets now by calling 513-381-REDS or log on to reds.com. That's not the one they'll be giving out. That's Logan Ondrusek sporting somebody's daughter's backpack.
Well, he's got interesting taste in backpacks. Of course, that's baseball's version of rookie hazing right there. In football, you know, you carry the veteran shoulder pads and equipment. In baseball, you're made to take a girly backpack out to the bullpen with you, chock full of bubble gum and sunflower seeds and pumpkin seeds and everything else the guys want out there. And it was Logan Ondrusek, the designated backpack boy today.
6-0 Cardinals have the lead. And Adam Wainwright has been on the mark today.
Well, he's been on the mark more often than not for the St. Louis Cardinals this year. Only once all season long has he given up more than 4 runs in a ball game. The Reds are going to have to score 6 to tie, 7 to get the lead. And the way he's been dealing, giving up only 2 hits on the afternoon, that seems like a long shot right now. But you grind out every at-bat, and you never know.
Scott Rowland 0 for 2. Will start the frame for the Reds, and Eli bounces it right back at Wainwright. So the first out secured. Been a tough series for Scott Rowland. And here's what Adam Wainwright has done as far as sealing the deal and finishing it. Some pretty good company there. Well, it has gotten darker and darker with the overcast skies. Some breeze, fortunately, has kicked up here. And there may be more stuff to come along with it as Johnny Gomes checks in, but he went. Gomes on a bounce, his ball is fielded and then dropped by Schumacher. So that'll be a base runner, and we would guess an error.
Well, the Cardinals have opened up a couple of doors for the Reds today. Wainwright has picked up his teammates. That's the second error the Cardinals have made. We've seen one, a throwing error on the third baseman, Felipe Lopez. This a fielding error on Skip Schumacher. Reaches into his glove, and he just can't find the handle.
So a runner on with 1 out. Second error, as you said, of the day for the Cardinals, and Jay Bruce will be in the plate. 1 for 2. Single in the second. And roll the ball in front of the plate, in which Molina threw him out on. Wainwright starts him with a strike. Swinging strike. Jay Bruce last homered on June 30th against the Phillies. And he's behind 0-2 to Adam Wainwright. And he's gone. Third strikeout of the day for the Cardinal right-hander. Drew Stubbs. Fielder's choice and a single for the Red center fielder. Well, people weren't impressed with the Cardinals pitchers before this series. They have to be now. Carpenter, Garcia, and Wainwright. They've locked up the Reds' offense. Only 2 base hits today. And Stubbs looks at a strike. On deck, Ryan Hannigan. To be followed by the pitcher spot, should the inning continue. Adam Wainwright out of Georgia. And he with Stubbs swinging. The Reds go down, leaving a runner stranded after 7, 6-0 Cardinals. Adam Wainwright.
Well, unfortunately, we've been making this player spotlight somebody on the Cardinal team the last 2 nights, and today no different. Adam Wainwright, 2 hits, 7 innings of shutout baseball. He pitched a complete game his last time out. That against the Florida Marlins, gave up 2 hits there, and that game was almost a near hit, no-hitter. One of the hits was a bloop hit. The other was a base hit by bunt. Adam Wainwright dominant today as the Reds have only mustered a couple of knocks. He's still in the ball game, and he has seen the rain come pouring down here at Great American Ballpark. The ground crew has been called out, and the fans that have been sitting around drenched in glorious sunshine and humidity are now getting a bath.
So the ground crew will get to work rolling the tarp out. The fans, as you said, Chris, have taken cover. Here we are with the Cardinals holding a lead 6-0. St. Louis due to bat in the top of the 8th inning, and obviously things are going to be held up for a while. It is a legal game, so if it doesn't get restarted, it would end at this point in time. But what was sunny, hot, humid, muggy, nasty, everything else you can think about it now, it is dark, rainy. The lights have come on, and it's kind of like what's happened to the Reds. They've had a wet blanket thrown over them here in this series.
Well, there's no doubt about that, and it is certainly going to get started again. Looking at the radar, Paul, it just looks like one of these pop-up showers that may only last a matter of minutes. But they're going to cover the field nonetheless and give the Reds fans a chance to cool off a little bit.
Yeah, and this, of course, would be the last game that St. Louis would play here in Cincinnati in case we were looking at more severe scenarios with trying to make something up. The Cardinals do not come back in. The Reds go to St. Louis over Labor Day weekend for a Friday, Saturday, Sunday series. And if things don't change, right now you'd be looking at St. Louis leaving town with a 1-game lead.
Well, worse things could happen. I mean, there's a lot of baseball left. We got close to 50 games left in the season, so it's just nothing that you can think, well, the Reds are out of the playoffs because they got swept here at home by the Cardinals. That's not all that true. I think what you have to do if you're the Cincinnati Reds, though, and this is where it falls on the manager, Dusty Baker, is to regroup your troops. You prepare yourself for the Florida Marlins because they're a very good ball club, and they're also a team that's going to bring real good pitching in here. And if you're not ready for the Florida Marlins, they too can come in here and be able to take you 2 out of 3 or even sweep you. So it's important to get ready, and of course also keep in mind the road trip coming up, playing against Arizona. The Reds ought to do well there. They've not played well in Los Angeles or San Francisco in years past, and they've got to be able to figure out a way to win in those places to be able to stay in the race. So after the series is over with the Cardinals, we'll be in for a lot of scoreboard watching.
We talk about the Florida series. Friday, it'll be Edinson Volquez against Josh Johnson at 10-4. He's a guy that can get it done.
Oh, I would say so. He was leading the league and all the major leagues in earned run average for the longest time, and he is a guy that obviously at the start of the All-Star game can throw the ball, in the high 90s, and if he's on his game, he could be one of these games that you're going to see just like Carpenter or Wainwright.
And Hanley Ramirez, one of the most talented on-the-hoof players in the whole National League.
They're a good ball club. There's no question about it with the Florida Marlins. So you can't take anybody lightly. But you can't get your dauber down too much just because you didn't play great baseball against the Cardinals. You're still in the pennant hunt. You're still among the two teams in this division that really have a legitimate shot at the division title. And you just keep playing hard and keep battling away.
The upcoming schedule, as we talk about Florida coming in here, this is a team that's already made a managerial change. Edwin Rodriguez running that team. After the Marlins, then you go to Arizona, where they've made a managerial change. Kirk Gibson replacing Hinch, and the Diamondbacks will be the 3 games there in Phoenix on the 17th, 18th, 19th, and then to L.A. for a Dodger team that still potentially can have an effect in not only the wild card but the National League West.
Well, right now there's only legitimately a couple of teams in this division that would qualify for the wild card. You take a look at the schedule, yes, in August, the Reds are nearly through it. It's this area right here that really concerns most Reds fans. When you're talking about the Dodger series and the San Francisco series, you're talking about good pitching. Mm-hmm. And the Reds have really done well against those teams that they should beat. Those teams under 500, the Reds have done real well. They played well within their division. But, you know, like all teams, when your bats go silent, and if you face good pitching, you have to figure out a way to win close, low-scoring ball games. And the Cardinals came in here and took the wind out of the Reds with a couple of grand slam home runs. They scored a bunch of runs last night in support of Jaime Garcia. The Cardinals flashed very good pitching, and the Reds are going to have to figure out a way to get some offense going.
You know, good pitching, but also, as we talked about in that last half inning, St. Louis has just come up with well-placed base hits. Yes, they've gotten grand slams, 2 of them in this series, but you look at the balls they've had that have been just out of the reach of Brandon Phillips and Paul Yanish. It's been things like that that have kept big innings going.
Well, you're right. I mean, you got to keep some innings going, but again, it comes down to pitching. Pitching always subdues good hitting, and unless you're really getting some good fortune, it seemed like the Reds are hitting in some bad luck, and the Cardinals hitting in good luck, if you want to call it that way. But when you start leaving the ball yard like they have, Yadi Molina answered the Reds yesterday with a home run, and that was an exclamation point. I really believe that all this controversy, which began with Brandon Phillips' comments about how he hated the Cardinals and how he wanted to call them names, had more of an effect of galvanizing the Cardinals than it did motivating the Reds. And that's the danger that you have when you start saying things that become bulletin board material. Unless you're ready to back it up, unless you're ready to get out there and play and win some ball games, those things can act negatively. And, the Cardinals are kind of drifting through this season. They haven't played as well this year as they played last year, and they've almost allowed the Reds to stay with them. Neither team has been on fire here since the All-Star break, but the Cardinals haven't put on a run yet that they're capable of doing, and the Reds are going to have to now keep pace with them. They've had an opportunity here to take a few games and pad the lead. Didn't happen in this series. So, it's one of those things where you're going to have to get back to business, buckle down, and beat the teams that you should, and hopefully beat the other teams that you're, are going to play that are also in contention.
And in connection with all of those comments made by Brandon Phillips, and certainly just some parts of them were the lightning rod segments, but, he also talked about how St. Louis has been the preeminent team in this division, and while the Reds were in first place at the start of the series, the Cardinals have been the team that's been winning the division titles, and the Reds want to be where the Cardinals have been at the end of the year.
Once you call somebody a female canine, whatever you say after that, nobody hears. And I think that's exactly what happened. I mean, Brandon tried to qualify his remarks by, giving some kudos to Tony La Russa and his crew by saying, oh, by the way, they are the team to beat. They've been there before. They've been in the postseason. They've got great players and so on. But once you kind of call them out, nobody hears the other comments, and I think that's what's happened. The problem is the Cardinals came in here and they've talked with their bats and their arms, and the Reds have only talked with their mouths, and that's where they find themselves right now. But all is not lost. I mean, this series I think was being downplayed from the very beginning before the Brandon Phillips comments became public, was downplayed very much by the Cardinals. They didn't want to get caught into one of these things where this is a do-or-die series, because even if they got swept, they're still in the pennant race. And if the Reds get swept, they're certainly in the race one game back. So a lot of baseball to be played, but it's time to reevaluate yourselves if you're the Reds. It's time to find the same team unity that you had working for you when you started winning ball games and kept yourself in the pennant race. So I think that's the important thing that they do. A lot of it rests on the shoulders of Dusty Baker to try to regroup his troops and get them going once again.
You know, the starting pitching, which for most of the year, Chris, has done such a good job for the Reds, we've seen them all of a sudden have these innings in this series where it's just gotten away.
Well, they have. I mean, you know, and there's some young pitchers in the starting rotation. Mike Leake has come back to normal after getting off to a tremendous start, and you hope that you are going to get a better start out of Johnny Cueto last night. It didn't happen. And, you know, the pitching is going to keep this team in it. I still very much believe in this team's pitching. I believe that the bullpen is very good, and I think that the pitching is even going to get better with the emergence of Homer Bailey coming out of AAA. And I think the wild card still in this whole thing for the Reds is Aroldis Chapman, the young Cuban that can throw 102, 103 miles an hour. I think when he does come out of AAA into the major leagues, he's a guy that can have an immediate and dramatic effect on this ball club and the whole city when it relates to the energy surrounding Reds baseball.
Top of the 8th, Cardinals with a 6-0 lead over the Reds. We're going to break away for network programming. We'll keep you updated through the delay and be back with more Reds baseball on Fox Sports Ohio. Bullpen. Massett will be following the previous work of Bronson Arroyo. Bray, Smith, and Arthur Rhodes had warmed up, and it was Arthur Rhodes who was going to start this inning, but now Nick Massett on.
Massett on 59 games. That's an awful lot of games for this right-hander, but he's a stout right-hander, and he's pretty much up to the task. 56 strikeouts from 51 innings for Massett gives you a little bit of an indication of what kind of stuff he has. Mid to high 90s fastball, good curveball, splitter, cutter, slider. He's got all the pitches. And he's hoping to throw a 0 on the board and keep this deficit at 6.
St. Louis really broke it open with a grand slam in the 5th inning off the bat of Colby Rasmus, their center fielder. So Nick Massett to start the top of the 8th against Brendan Ryan, who checks, but it's strike 1. Ryan 1 for 3. He had a single in the 6th inning, his last at bat. Right-hander Nick Massett works him to the outside. Chris Heisey has taken over in center field for the Reds after the rain delay. There's Heisey. Count 1-1 to the St. Louis shortstop, now 2-1. The Cardinals 6 runs, 11 hits, guilty of 2 errors, and St. Louis has left 8 on base. The Reds have been held to just 2 hits and have left 4 stranded. Scott Rowland backhands it. Gets the runner out. Well, you talked earlier today, Chris, about how tough this infield had been. Interesting to see what effect all this rain will do on it.
Well, they got the tarp on pretty quickly, Paul, so it's not going to be rock hard like it was, but it's certainly not saturated like the outfield is. We saw what has happened is that the grass is dried and the ground underneath it, no matter how you try to water with a water sprinkling system, you can't get enough on there to keep that underlayment really be able to absorb water. So a lot of water still standing out in short left field and shallow center field. But the infield should be just fine.
Felipe Lopez 0 for 4 today. Is the one-out batter, back-hitting now from the left side against the right-hander Massett. Another opportunity for Scott Rowland, maybe. Got it fouled around. 2 gone. John Jay looking to continue what's been a 2-hit day for him.
Well, he's hit a double in every one of the ball games in this series, Jay has.
His 16 doubles on the season. The Reds will be off tomorrow and then host Florida over the weekend. Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday afternoon games. The Cardinals go home where they'll host Chicago over the weekend. Massett gets a first pitch strike to John Jay.
Well, you couldn't ask for a better position to be in than John Jay. If you're a left-handed young hitter coming up, batting in front of Albert Pujols, when you're in the lineup against right-handers, you are insured of getting plenty of fastballs.
And to add to that, how about the position that puts Holiday in behind Pujols?
Well, they need Holiday to continue to hit the way he has in this series. He's been a run producer. Not everything can rely on the shoulders of Albert.
0-2 pitch. And 1-2 now on John Jay. Matt Holliday with 7 base hits in the series. And in the first 2 games, delivered what basically ended up being the go-ahead runs. 1-2. Now 2-2. Nick Massett worked an inning last night, gave up a hit. Trying to retire the Cardinals in order here in the top of the 8th inning. And it looks like he'll get that done on that grounder to Votto after 7.5. 6-0 St. Louis. and see every Reds game live or on demand on your computer. Visit Reds.com to order and get more details. MLB.tv. Baseball everywhere. Bottom of the 8th inning here at Great American Ballpark. St. Louis with a 6-0 lead. The Reds will come to the plate with Chris Heisey leading off. Alan Craig takes over in left field, and Mitchell Boggs, the new pitcher.
Well, at least Adam Wainwright is not out there. That ought to be good news for Reds hitters. They only managed 2 hits all afternoon against Wainwright.
So forgive me, Heisey's in the on-deck circle. It is Ryan Hannigan who is leading off the inning. Hannigan reached thanks to an error by Felipe Lopez in the 5th inning. One of 2 errors the Cardinals have been guilty of.
The only 2 hits the Reds were able to manage off of Adam Wainwright were 2-out singles. One by Jay Bruce in the 2nd and one by Drew Stubbs in the 5th.
Wainwright in line to get his 17th win of the year. Although the Reds are hoping to stage a comeback to spoil that. Hannigan chops this one off the glove of Boggs. Schumacher gobbles it up and gets Hannigan. Nice effort by Schumacher to stay with the ball.
Close play at first base, always hustling Ryan Hannigan. He sees the ball tip off the top of the pitcher's glove, and there is Skip Shoemaker to pick up where he left off.
So on is Chris Heisey. Came in to play defensively in the last half inning. Facing Mitchell Boggs as Heisey, who started and played last night in right field, was 0 for 2. And later was replaced by Jim Edmonds. 1-1. To Chris Heisey. Now 2-1. As of late, Heisey's been getting a lot of time. Has started 7 of the last 9, and has started 23 on the season. Looks at a strike. Mitchell Boggs has allowed runs in 13 of 44 appearances over the year, but in just 6 of the last 24. Ball still kicking around. Earlier this month on the 3rd, Boggs allowed a career high 5 runs while appearing in relief against Houston. 2-2 to Chris Heisey. Brendan Ryan will gather. And out is Heisey as he stumbled, as going down was Pujols to dig it out. Almost similar to what happened the other night with Drew Stubbs down there at first base.
Well, Ryan's got to hurry the ball because Heisey runs above average, and he comes around here and he kind of sidearms that throw, and it looks like he didn't get out of his glove right. And the layout by Pujols, in the process, Heisey trips either over the bag or over the upraised foot of Albert. Came limping off the field a little bit, did Chris Heisey, but he looks like he's all right.
Brandon Phillips, the 2-out hitter. 0 for 3. And there's Chris Heisey walking it off. Phillips twice has grounded out to the pitcher, Wainwright, and bounced to Pujols at first base. That 0 for 3 today makes Phillips 1 for 13 in the series. 1-2 for Mitchell Boggs.
Yeah, he had a couple of runs batted in against the Cardinals in the very first ball game of the year. on opening day, and then went through a drought on as far as RBIs against the Cardinals until yesterday's ball game.
And got that RBI and a ground out early in the game. Checks his swing in time. The 26-year-old Mitchell Boggs, who attended the University of Georgia. Split time last year between the Cardinals and their AAA team in Memphis. Phillips, other way, base hit. His second of the series. So a 2-out base hit for the Reds' leadoff batter.
A third hit of the day for the Reds and a third 2-out single they've been able to gather.
So that sets it up for Paul Janisch, who's 0 for 3 today. Oh for 10 in the series, and came into the series swinging a pretty good bat. But he and the Reds collectively have faced some pretty good pitching from St. Louis. 2 outs in the bottom of the 8th, and the Cardinals leading by half a dozen. Called strike. And right now it's pretty much Paul Janisch and just Paul Janisch at short. This one headed to foul territory near the tarp, and Pujols can't get it.
Scary times for the Cardinal dugout when you see Albert Pujols rushing toward a tarp down the right field line on wet grass. Of course, it's very wet, that warning track right there, but he's going to take care not to injure himself on something like that.
So Janisch still alive.
He knows as well as anybody he's the meal ticket.
Of course, the Cardinals know how dangerous tarp can be. Remember, it ate up Vince Coleman in the World Series. Back in the 80s. Mitchell Boggs to Paul Janisch, and he serves that into right field. And look at that baby skitter and stop in the water, and it'll allow Brandon Phillips to go to third. Pujols got in the way of Janisch as he took a turn. Not that he would have gotten to second base anyway, but Pujols did impede his progress. But his first base hit of the series. That ball just stopped.
Well, you take what you get, and that's what they're giving him right there is that ball in the right field. You see the water, standing water still. The ground so hard it's not absorbing it. And with a 6-run lead, a couple of runners on base, Tony La Russa is going to waste no time and try not to let this ball game or this inning get out of hand.
La Russa will call to the bullpen. The Reds a 2-out threat going. Brandon Phillips at third. Paul Janisch at first with Joey Votto due to hit. It'll be a Skyline Chili call to the bullpen. 6-0. St. Louis with a lead in the bottom of the 8th. Honda in the Kings Auto Mall. Visit KingsHondaUSA.com. 6-0 St. Louis with the lead. Reds still batting bottom of the 8th. Trevor Miller, the new pitcher, and Joey Votto at the plate for the Reds with a couple of runners on.
Well, third day in a row that Trevor Miller has been in a ball game in this series, and third day in a row that Joey Votto will face him. So far, 0 for 2 is Votto with a line out and a ground out back to the first baseman. Veteran left-hander from Louisville, Kentucky.
Votto 0 for 3 today. Trevor Miller last night, a third of an inning in all zeros. There's his numbers for 2010. Francisco Cordero is getting loose in the Reds bullpen. We've not seen him in this series. Count 0-2 to Joey Votto with 2 out and 2 on. And Votto to left field. Holiday chasing, bounces in front of him. Phillips will score. Giannis at second. Votto with a single and an RBI. 6-1.
A little flare job by Joey Votto. Hit the ball hard the first night off of Trevor Miller. A line drive to the left fielder. But this time he flares it down the third base line with 2 outs. And he finds some pay dirt. A couple of right-handers back-to-back. It surprises me now that Tony La Russa won't come out of the dugout and make a pitching change to get Miller out of there. And there he is. He will anyway.
Scott Rowland due to hit. Tony La Russa will trot out there and make the call to the bullpen. 6-1. Cardinals have the advantage with 2 out, bottom of the 8th. Pitching change. We'll be right back. Central rivals as Chicago looks to play spoiler to the hopes for the playoffs for St. Louis. Fox Saturday Baseball, presented by Sprint, returns this week at 4 p.m. Mike McDougall has been called out of the St. Louis bullpen, with the Cardinals leading 6-1 in the bottom of the 8th and with 2 outs and the threat still going.
Well, he's a tough right-hander. He's been a closer in the past. He closed games for the Kansas City Royals back in the early 2000s, 2003, and 2005. In fact, he did that also for the Washington Nationals last year. 70 saves in his career and 90 chances for McDougall. Good stuff. Mid-90s fastball, hard breaking ball. It's always been a problem sometimes with McDougall of location.
He was called up from Memphis on July 28th and has allowed all 4 of his inherited runners to score. Meanwhile, Scott Rowland is due. He is 0 for 9 in this series. Paul Giannis at second. Joey Votto at first. A run in already for the Reds on the RBI knock by Votto, scoring Brandon Phillips. Reds trailing by 5. Dougal hits the outfield corner for a strike. Rolling today, a pair of groundouts and a fly ball to left. Started today with a .296 batting average, 18 homers, and 62 RBIs. Mike McDougall against Scott Rowland.
He is rushing it up there. He's always had a good arm, mid to high 90s. Now that on the radar gun, on our radar gun anyway, 97, 96 by the one here at the ballpark. Keys at the knees.
There's a look at the deployment of runners. Giannis at second, Votto at first. 1-1. And rolling with a pop-up. Molina with room in foul territory. And that takes care of the Reds in the bottom of the 8th. They get a run. St. Louis with a 6-1 advantage. Fielding Brendan Ryan's ground ball. John Morrell, hot dog, play of the game. It certainly seems like one of the few times the Cardinal batters have hit the ball right at somebody. Scott Rowland 0 for 10 in this series. It has been certainly a notable effect with him not delivering the way he's capable of, but not just he, though. The Reds have been limited today to 5 hits. Francisco Cordero, meanwhile, will come out of the bullpen.
He's 30 for 36 in save opportunities. He is obviously not in a save opportunity right here, trying to get some work in. Has not been in a ball game since Sunday in Chicago.
And he'll start facing Albert Pujols. 0 for 3 with an intentional walk.
That was a game in Chicago he'd like to forget. Cordero walked 3 and beaned a batter before Dusty Baker got him out of the ball game.
It was the Saturday game, wasn't it?
That was the Saturday game on the 7th.
3rd in the National League in saves. At 30, right behind Brian Wilson and Heath Bell. Pujols in a 0-2 hole. And he's going to pop this one where Brandon Phillips is in position to gather it. Out number 1. And now Alan Craig will bat. He took over in left field for Matt Holliday. Seen him a couple of times enter in this series, Alan Craig. It seemed to be a thought that he might get some of the time in right field with John Jay after the Ludwig trade. But John Jay's got a stranglehold on that.
Yeah, he does. Of course, if it's a platoon situation, the lefty's always going to get more at bats because the number of right-handed starters in the league versus left-handed starters. But if they play a straight platoon, Craig will get his share against lefties.
And 4-9 since been called up on the third from AAA. The fourth time this year Alan Craig has been called up from Memphis. He said that for so many years the Cardinals AAA team was in Louisville, where the Reds are now. And Craig hits this one into right center. Jay Bruce in position. Second out. Hey, Reds fans, come on down to Plum Street Cafe Friday at 6. It's your chance to test your Reds knowledge and win some great prizes. Plus, you could end up on Reds Live after the game on Fox Sports Ohio. Be part of the fun at Plum Street Cafe. A very nice place. Now here's the guy that had the big blow of the game, Colby Rasmus. At the plate with 2 outs.
You know, you go back to that at bat in which he hit that grand slam home run. Bases loaded, obviously. He got off to an 0-2 count. Arroyo got ahead of him with a nice fastball down and away and ran the count 0-2. And Rasmus fouled off a couple, finally worked the count to full before he hit that grand slam to dead center field. Just an excellent all-around at bat for Colby Rasmus.
It's his 19th homer of the year. And then followed that up with a single in the 7th. And eventually came around to score. Darrow gets the strike call. You look ahead to the bottom of the ninth. The Reds will have coming up to hit Johnny Gomes, Jay Bruce, and Drew Stubbs. Now foul. So that long rain delay. Top of the 8th inning has cooled things down considerably here at Great American. Not quite the sauna that it was for most of the day. Cordero a strike away from getting out of the inning and still needs it. And after that game you talked about Saturday, Dusty Baker on Sunday said Cordero is still his starter.
Or closer.
Or closer, excuse me.
And he should be. I mean, you said it earlier, Paul. He's one of the guys who is among the league leaders in saves this year. He's blown 6. I mean, no one's going to be perfect unless you have just one of these tremendous years like Brad Lidge did a couple of years ago. And who do you have as a replacement? A lot of people clamor for Arthur Rhodes, but in Dusty Baker's words and everybody else's observation, you can't go to Arthur every day, not at his age. What you really hope for is that Cordero is able to really tighten it up between here and the end of the year. If that happens, the Reds won't lose too many more games late in the game, and you'll be right in the hunt.
2-2 the count on Colby Rasmus. Pujols and Alan Craig retired on fly balls. Cordero gets Rasmus down on strikes after 8 1/2. Cardinals 6-1 lead. PerformanceHondaStore.com. We'll put a smile on your face, every customer, every vehicle, every day. By Loveza. And by Cincinnati Children's. In the top 10 for all selected pediatric specialties in U.S. News & World Report's 2010 Best Children's Hospitals. Bottom of the ninth, and the Reds in need of a comeback. They trail by 5, 6-1 to St. Louis. Johnny Gomes, Jay Bruce, and the pitcher spot due to bat. Ryan Franklin out of the pen for the Cards.
Yeah, we saw the Reds closer in the top of the inning. We will see the Cardinals closer again in a non-save situation at the bottom of the inning. He saved 20 of 22. Franklin has. Always has good control. Only 6 walks on the year, despite the fact of throwing 45 innings. Not the kind of guy that registers a lot of strikeouts, but he's sneaky fast, good breaking ball, and gets lots of ground balls.
Got that 20th save last night. Johnny Gomes, who today reached on an error. Prior to that, a strikeout and a ground out. Johnny with 1 base hit in the series. 6-1 Cardinals. Swing and a miss by Gomes. Thank all the folks that helped bring Reds baseball to you from Fox Sports Ohio. Our executive producer, Tom Farmer. Coordinating producer, Doug Johnson. Producer today, Brian Hunterman. Bob Pinnell, our director. Gomes holds up on that one. Associate producers, Matt Sigafus and Lauren White. Our pregame producer is Kent Weaver. And, of course, the great guys we got in the booth with us here, Mark Porta, Jesse Jackson, and Mark Webb. 1-2 the count on Johnny Gomes from Ryan Franklin. And Gomes connects. Buddy in center field. Rasmus has it for the first time. Reds at home this weekend with Florida. Friday night, Edinson Volquez, Josh Johnson. Saturday night, Mike Leake, Sean West. Sunday afternoon, Johnny Cueto and Anibal Sanchez. Jay Bruce, 1 for 3 today, a single in the second. When the Reds have had chances, they've kind of come crashing to an end with 6 left on base today. The Cardinals have stranded 8. Bruce looks at a couple of balls right under the chute from Ryan Franklin. Last night's game, the first game all season that Jay Bruce did not play in, either as a starter or as a pinch hitter or a late replacement. Franklin serves him a strike. Two and 1 pitch. Now 2-2 as it screams foul. Headed toward left center, and Alan Craig has it for the second out. Today marked the first time, because of the difference in percentage points, that the Reds have been in second place in the National League Central since the 1st of August. Tapping a string of 8 straight days of being in first place.
Well, the interesting thing really going back between these two ball clubs, neither team has had a lead of more than 3 games all year long. So it's been a seesaw battle, back and forth if you want to say so. And you hope that the Reds can pick up a little momentum after an off day and take on the Florida Marlins with a little renewed vigor.
Juan Francisco, the pinch hitter, with 2 out. He had an RBI single on Monday night. 0 for 2 in the series.
Meanwhile, the Cardinals go home after an off day. They play Chicago, then another off day. They play 2 games against the Milwaukee Brewers, enjoy another off day at home, and then host the San Francisco Giants.
They've got a big road stretch coming up, too, toward the end of the year. 23rd through the 1st, they'll be on the road from August into September. And Francisco with a slow roller. Brendan Ryan flips to Franklin, and that's the ball game. The Cardinals with a victory by a score of 6-1, and they now have a 1-game lead in the National League's Central Division. And once again, the pitching of St. Louis stymied the Reds' offense.
That's exactly right, Paul. Only 5 hits tonight, 6 hits last night, and 6 hits the previous night. So the Cardinals have doubled them up on hits every night and day in this ball game or in this series. And Colby Rasmus, the hero of today, with a grand slam home run to dead center field. Skip Schumacher hit a grand slam in the first game. But overall, it was a matter of Cardinal pitching over Reds hitting. Dusty Baker's got a little work to do with his crew. The Cardinals leave town in first place.
Adam Wainwright with his 17th win of the year, and Bronson Arroyo with his 7th loss of the season. There you see it, 6-1 the final. The Cardinals defeat